Welcome back to this episode of Beekeeping 101. And one of the number one questions that I had, and you might have as a newer beekeeper, is what is the best hive tool? And that's personal preference, but I want to break down what I think makes a great hive tool and what makes it easier on me. And I think there's some big differences here. So we're going to talk about the most common hive tools, and it's three different types. We have our traditional hive tool right here. This is made by Dadant in the USA. Really like this one. This is a Kent Williams hive tool. This is made in China, but this is a good hive tool. And we'll have a link to all of these, whether they come from Dadant, China, or whatever. As long as it's a high quality one that we've tested, we'll share that with you. And this is one that I don't have available, but it's the only representative I have for the J-hook hive tool. So we have the traditional hive tool, the Kent Williams hive tool, and the J-hook. Obviously, looks like a J. Now, one of the biggest problems with the J-hook, and let me talk about this one first. This is an adapted one, so it's not quite as bad, but it's all about, to me, the taper of the tip of each of these hive tools. And so when we go from a thin tip to a very thick piece of steel, that's harder to slip into the boxes. If you can only get 1/8 of an inch or less into there before you're getting a lot of resistance, that's going to be very difficult for you to get enough in there to where you can pry in your boxes. And if you don't get enough, or you have to really fight for it, and it's not thin, you're working extra hard with your arm, your elbows, and your wrists to get that box pried apart, and you're beating up the corners of your boxes. This is what I hate the most, and a good hive tool will negate a lot of the damage to the corners of your boxes. So when you're getting in between your boxes or any of your stuff, I'm wanting a nice gradual and thin taper, and I really think this Dadant one does a fantastic job of it. This Kent Williams one also does a really fantastic job of it. It just goes from thin, and it finally gets about right here, over 1 inch into the hive tool, it finally gets to about the thickness of the rest of the tool. And so at that point, you've gotten a good 3/4 of an inch or so into your box. It's a lot easier than just going extremely thick really fast on that. So that's the number one thing I'm looking for in a hive tool. The other is when I'm carrying it around. And so when I have it in my bee suit or otherwise, this is the best one, in my opinion, for that, because it's kind of got like this handle right here. You can just pull it on out, and it also doesn't take up a lot of space. There's not a whole lot of difference, and you can get magnets, and this is something when you're just working bees all day, little things make a big difference. If you only have 3 hives, this isn't probably going to be as important to you. So just keep that in mind, that my preferences are more based off of a commercial or professional beekeeping thought process. So right here, I have the Kent Williams hive tool, and I don't really like how that hook comes out of here and gets in the way, but it does work, and it just takes up a little bit more space, but it is a good hive tool, and I think it's one of the better for prying in a unique way, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then the J-hook probably is my second favorite for putting in a pocket. It does catch a lot because of this bit right here. I don't understand why we have to have this extra corner right there, because when you're pulling it out of any of your pockets, that catches on the way out sometimes, and that's a pain when it catches on the edge of a pocket. But all these are great tools. I've used them for many hundreds and most of these thousands of hours, and so they do work quite well. Now, let's talk about prying. Typically, when I'm entering a hive, and you'll watch my videos where I'm going through boxes, and I'm usually using this tool these days. So I'm going to pry the frames apart with this one and grab them and pull them out. And this tool works quite well. And you can use this to scrape a box with really good. I love this part of the tool. And that's another reason I prefer this tool, is it's easier to scrape boxes. So sometimes I need this side of it, but sometimes, especially for the frame rests, when there's all kinds of propolis built up along them, I'm using this tool and I'm scraping down the sides of it. So when it comes to these other tools, this one does not have that scraping option that I love, especially in the extraction room. I use this quite a bit. And this one does have that, but half the time this is in the way. So another reason why I've chosen to kind of go back to the traditional Hive tool. Now, when it comes to prying frames, these hooks are designed to go up underneath the frames, hook up under there, and then pry up against the box, or more often against an adjacent frame. The problem with this one is you have a very thin amount of metal here, and if that frame is glued down decently, you're going to be putting a big indention into that adjacent frame in one of the weak points of the frame, which is on one of the ears that sits on the frame rest. Over time, you can weaken them enough where that'll actually break off there. And so if you're wanting to, in my opinion, frequently pry frames up using this method, just hooking up underneath that frame and prying those up, I highly recommend that you use this one for the longevity of your frames, because this has a bigger surface area, spreads out the blow and the pressure that's put onto the adjacent frame or the box, and it's going to spread that out, and it's not going to crimp basically the ears of your frame. I've noticed that with the J-hooks. This model isn't as bad as some, but some of them have a little kicker off of here, and I mean, it just digs right into your frame. You'll never get that same indention with this one or this Hive tool. There's several different models out there. There's some of these that have wooden handles. Some of these tools are a little bit longer that you can find, like an Italian Hive tool that's really skinny. I've tried those. I don't know how the Italians managed to use those things. They must have a different Hive system. Really weird. And who knows? For all I know, the Italians don't use those tools, and someone just saw one Italian guy use it and decided it was forevermore the Italian Hive tool. There's so many different tools out there. Let me know if you have any different preferences or what you're looking for in a Hive tool. But for me, I am a huge fan of this traditional one. And then after that, I would go for the Kent Williams Hive tool. The J-hook can be a really good tool, but I don't like how it crimps my frames over time. And then it ends up leading to broken ears off of my frames. And usually it's on a frame full of brood or food, and boy, that's inconvenient, isn't it? So just some opinions, years of using these products and finding them out. I'm going to leave links down below, but let me know what your favorite Hive tool is or what your experiences are, and we'll see you in the next Beekeeping 101 video.